Welcome to Crack the PANRE-LA Code. My name is Katie Iverson. I'm a HIPPO PA here, and I am with Chelsey Meachum today, who's my HIPPO PA partner in crime. Today we're going to discuss all things PANRE-LA, the specifics of the exam. We're going to talk about structure and logistics of taking it, how it's scored, and some test strategies. We're going to also go over some multiple choice item tips and tricks that you may have forgotten from the last time you took a standardized test, whether that was the PANCE or the last time we took the PANRE. And we are going to then show you around our PANRE-LA reference guide at the end so you can get the most out of it when you take the test, and talk about subscription details so you're all set to go when we get done with this. As we get started, just a reminder that we're going to have a Q&A at the end, so please put any questions you have for us in the chat and we will get to answering them at the end of the webinar. As I said, I'm Katie, work here at HIPPO, and Chelsey's going to tell us a little bit about herself.
Yes, my name is Chelsey Meachum, and I've been a PA for almost 14 years. My main clinical background is in women's health, and I work part-time for HIPPO Education as a senior medical editor. I work mostly on our PA products like the PANRE-LA Reference Guide, which, like Katie mentioned, we will discuss more later. And I just finished my 5th quarter of the PANRE-LA.
I've spent most of my 20-ish years of being a PA clinically working in the ER, and for about the last 16 or so, I've worked in education part-time, faculty at the University of Iowa's PA program, and for the last 8 years, I've been here at HIPPO. I'm actually a senior director of education here at HIPPO, and along with Chelsey, we oversee all the PA products. I finished my PANRE-LA a year ago December, so December of 24, I was in the first cohort that went through. And a super fun fact for folks that don't know us, I was actually Chelsey's faculty advisor when she went through PA school at Iowa. So we've been a duo for quite a long time.
Yes, we have. So we're now going to move into the logistics section of our webinar. So I'm assuming that the majority of people watching are just starting their first quarter of the PANRE-LA. So a quick review of what the PANRE-LA is. You get 25 graded questions every quarter with 5 minutes to answer each question, and we need to pass 8 out of the 12 quarters. If you take all 8 quarters in a row, it's possible that you can finish taking this in 2 years. However, you can take a break if you need to for a busy quarter, or if something comes up and you're unable to do your questions for one or more quarters. This current quarter opened the first week of January. Even if you haven't started your questions yet, you have gotten an email from NCCPA saying, Chelsey, your PANRE-LA questions are ready. So each quarter, you will receive the same email from NCCPA to remind you. On the NCCPA website, there's a list of dates for when each quarter opens and closes, so you can mark them on your calendar. And then between each quarter, there's a 2 to 3 week break between when a quarter closes and when the next quarter opens, just so you can know the timing. So what I have done since starting my PANRE-LA questions last January is I added 4 calendar reminders with the dates that the quarters open and close. So when the quarter opens, a daily reminder pops up on my phone telling me to go complete my questions. I ignore it if I'm busy or it's just not a good time, but it helps me to remember to do them early on in the quarter. Once I finish my questions for that quarter, I just delete the reminder and then it will pop up again next quarter.
And if you follow HIPPO Education on Instagram, we also set reminders on our Instagram stories for when the quarter opens and when the quarter closes. So that will be a good way to remember as well. But I love the calendar reminders. It's a great tip.
It's been helpful because I don't check my email like I should. So new this year, I did get this email and I read it. NCCPA sent an email in early January to the people enrolled in the PANRE-LA currently. And the email says the first question of each quarter will be unscored and administered for educational purposes only. Each question will address acceptable test-taking behavior per NCCPA and PANRE-LA policies. Your responses to these questions will not affect your score in any way. So this is how we assume, we don't work for them, but we're assuming that NCCPA is trying their best to ensure that their exam content is being protected by the exam test takers and not being shared in any way, and to prevent and detect any cheating.
On the NCCPA's website, there is a frequently asked questions section for the PANRE-LA, and then there's a new question that has popped up since I took it, and I think it's as the test evolves and things are evolving, but talking about are online resources that incorporate artificial intelligence AI permitted for use when answering the PANRE-LA. And so we wanted to address this because this is, I think, on top of mind for a lot of people. So the answer is yes, but kind of yes. So what they say is, this is a quote from NCCPA. Yes, online resources that incorporate AI are permitted when answering PANRE-LA questions, provided substantial portions of the question are not used in the search. Discrete keywords from test question may be used when seeking information using a test engine. And so there is no ability to copy and paste from the test site, and you really don't have time to do much more than a keyword search. And so I do think that, putting keywords into a Google search, putting keywords into some type of search engine is what they're saying we can do, but they don't want us to be typing the entire question out or somehow reproducing the question in that search engine. When I had no clue about what a question was asking when I took it, and I was like, I don't even know where to start looking for this. I would just type a couple keywords into a Google search bar and see what pulled up, like 27-year-old, pregnant, has 2 left feet, has a nosebleed, and try to figure out, can I put these clues together to figure out what to run with. And so I think that that's worrisome for folks about whether or not they're cheating by using a Google search, by using Google Gemini that pops up now. And as long as you're just using keywords, that's what NCCPA has told us is fine. So when you take the exam, the mechanics of taking it, what's best to use? So everyone has different setups at home or setups at work, a computer, you want to use your phone, how many screens, what references do you want to have open? So when I took mine, what my setup looks like, and I know for a lot of people, I have 2 screens in my office. So I'd have my exam open on one screen, and then on my other screen, I had another window open, and I had my references open and ready to go. So I had our HIPPO Education PANRE-LA Reference Guide. I had a tab open with the normal lab values that NCCPA puts out, so I had them really quick to look at. I also had my up-to-date that I have access to open and ready to go, and then the 4th open tab would just be Google in case I really needed it. When you click Start Your Exam, the introduction screen pops up to tell you that the organ system for the first question is going to be, you're getting a endocrine question, you're getting a cardiovascular question. And then it will also tell you whether or not there are images or tables for that question. So if you are on your phone or you're taking the exam on a subway on a phone and you can't enlarge an image, you can store that question and come back to it. But once you click begin or start question, then the question will open. The 5-minute clock on the top corner starts to count down, and then you'll have to answer that question within that 5 minutes to get it graded.
And remember, one of the beauties of this test is that you can take a few questions here, take a break, take a few more questions. You are not forced to take them all in one setting, like at the testing center, which is great. So you could take one question per day if you wanted to. Katie, being the overachiever that she is, took all of them on day 1 of every single quarter that she did, all in one sitting, because she's eager and anxious. And she also has a teenager at home who is very self-sufficient. I, on the other hand, have 2 small kids at home, so I take my questions after I get them to bed at night, and it usually takes me 3 nights to get through all my questions. As long as you get the questions done by the end of the quarter, it really does not matter how you got there. Every quarter, I will admit that I store all of the cardiology questions to the end, and I save them for the end of the quarter. Cardiology is like the worst thing ever for me. It's my nemesis, and they freak me out every time. But for some reason, I feel better saving them to the end after my brain has been back in test-taking mode, and working again. So to store a question, this is how you would do it. When you are given the screen telling you what the next question will be about, you can either click Start Question, Store Question, or Exit Exam. When you select Store Question, you then get a pop-up window that makes you verify that you actually do want to store it. So if you hit Store Question, then the next available question will come up for you to answer, and then you can decide if you want to answer that one now or not. Storing a question will move it to the very end of the quarter. So if you get one question and you store it, it will then become question number 25 of that quarter. You can only store up to 5 questions at a time. So if you have 5 questions stored and you try to store your 6th question, it makes you answer the first stored question before you can store anymore.
That's super helpful. As I never stored a question, as you know, because I just went right down the thing at the very first time it opened because I was so nervous and anxious. Let's talk a little bit about scoring because I know that that's a worry for like all of us. The whole point of this test is to pass it, to be done with it. So we want to know how it's scored. And even as people in their first quarter, I know the anxiety of like, how do I pass this thing is real. So here's the bottom line. No one understands how this thing is scored. Again, Chelsey and I do not work for the NCCPA. They have a video on it on the website explaining the scoring that I've watched, and I've watched it like multiple times, and I'm still at the end like, I thought there was no math involved. Like, what are you even talking about? This doesn't make much sense to me. So the NCCPA, what they tell you is that they use a scale scoring. So they employ these like crazy smart statisticians, and they use scale scoring. So you can get them all right and you still won't have a perfect score because there is some type of item weighted difficulty in there. One of our Hippo PAs on their very first quarter got them all right, 25 out of 25, wasn't me. And they did not have a perfect score of 1500. So that doesn't make any sense to me the way I do math. Like if I get them all right, I should have 100%, but that's not the way it works because of the scaled scoring. I got more wrong one quarter than ever before. Then my scale went up, my score went up. So like, how does that even work? The score range is from 1,000 to 1,500, and they have set the passing at 1150, and that is what NCCPA says, and everyone's site says the same thing, 1150. And so after the first quarter, when you log into the scoring section, you're going to see these 3 bars. Your interim score bar, your score bar is purple. The passing standard bar, that 1150, is green, and then the average score bar for your cohort is gray. You just want to keep your score bar purple longer than the average score bar, the passing score, which is green. Forget about the gray. Keep the purple bar, yours, longer than the passing score bar, the green, and then you're good to go. You can spend lots of time and energy trying to figure out the scoring of this, but I actually think it's kind of bonkers and it doesn't make any sense. So really you just want to do your best, prepare the best you can, do your best every quarter, and then just hope that that purple score bar is longer than your green one.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Katie, let's get into the nitty-gritty about how to ace this exam, how to read a vignette, how to gather some information and available hints within it. So for many of us, we have not taken a test like this in 6 years, 10 years, whatever. So I know we're all rusty and a little anxious. So when I take a multiple choice exam, this is my approach. I first read the lead-in question, which is the question in the very last line of the clinical scenario. Then I look at the answer options, and then I go back and I read the entire question. Reading the question in this approach helps me to know what are they actually asking me and what are my options to pick from. This helps me focus on what I need to be thinking about. So the question might ask about the initial intervention or the confirmatory test or the definitive diagnosis. Remember to pay attention to what exactly they're asking you. So after I do that, I select my answer or my best guess of an answer, and then I start my search to go and verify it. I check the PANRE-LA reference guide, I do a Google search, I look in some of my other references. We cannot say this enough. Always, always, always select an answer before you start searching to confirm your answer. Because if you somehow don't make it back to the testing screen before your 5-minute timer runs out, or your Wi-Fi goes out, or the website goes down, or a whole variety of things can happen, you at least have an answer selected and you have a chance of getting it right. If any of these things do happen, the computer will use your selected answer as the submitted answer. So if you don't select anything and one of these things happens, then you have a 0% chance of getting it right.
Using that last sentence is really helpful and really focusing on what they're asking, because sometimes you want to do all 5 of the choices, but they're asking for like the one that is definitive or the first one or the best one. And so using that can be really helpful. I approach questions the same way. I probably taught Chelsey how to approach questions this way, so it's probably my good idea first before it came her good idea. But I've taken the PANCE once, like all of us. I've taken the PANRE now 3, 4 times. I'm old. 3 times, 4 times. I can't even remember. And I've also written tons of questions here at Hippo. And so I feel like I'm really good at looking at multiple choice questions for clues. We have to remember that part of a standardized test is a game. This is a game that we're playing, that they are making us play. And that being test savvy, you can help get the answer right, even if you don't know all the information, by looking at some clues. And that remember that this exam also is book knowledge, not clinical knowledge. So you have to take your clinical hat off when you're taking it, because if not, you'll get super frustrated. You'll get the question wrong and be like, wait, I just saw a patient yesterday and I did that exact thing and you're telling me it's wrong. So you have to really think about what the book says and not maybe what you do in practice. And then don't read into the question. If they don't say it, don't assume it. Don't assume anything about a patient's history. Don't assume anything about a patient's social history or anything about it. Unless they say it, it's not there, so don't assume it.
Yes. So if the question has provided you a specific clue, like the patient's not up to date on their vaccines, or they have a specific job, or they recently emigrated to the United States, these clues all matter to what the question is asking. The NCCPA question writers are not just telling you these things for fun. If you have no clue whatsoever what disease process is even being asked about, there's a couple things that you can do. You can, like Katie said, put some things into Google, see what comes up. Or what I do, I have the NCCPA blueprint printed out. And so if I'm clueless, I just quickly browse through the topics of, say, cardiovascular, looking at all of the options and figuring out, oh, that maybe could be what it's talking about. And then I go about looking more in that topic section in our PANRE-LA reference guide. That has helped me get on track a couple of times if I've been confused or clueless. And one final thought, go with your gut. Don't second guess yourself. I find that the ones that I have gotten wrong, I have changed my answer from my first instinct and then I kick myself, but it happens.
Yeah, you should. I mean, we all know that from school that we've always changed answers that we've then gotten wrong. So another reason why answering before you go looking for sources, hey, my gut really says the answer is amoxicillin, but I'm just going to go double check that, can really help you. And then only change it if you like are really, really, really sure that you are wrong. So back to those clues that I said that I'm good at picking up on questions just because I've taken so many and I've written so many. Let's talk about some of those for multiple choice questions. And again, we've said this before, we'll say it again. We do not work for the NCCPA. I do not write questions for them. I've just taken a ton, written a ton for Hippo. So I know kind of how these are written and things that you can get clued in on. The first thing is, this is a huge, huge bonus for us in this exam, the PANRE-LA. They tell us the organ system. So remember, the correct answer has to make sense with the organ system they're asking about. So there have been times where I get a question, I'm like, I don't really know. I could go either way with these things. I'm like, oh, this is a renal question, so I'm going to pick the renal answer. This is a hematology question. I'll pick the hematology answer. And so that helps rule out other options. And sometimes I've gotten them right just by doing that. So remember, they ask you the organ system. And so if they're asking you a renal question, it needs to be one of the like 15 renal topics on the blueprint. So you can know exactly, which you can narrow it down to the fact that it's going to have to be one of these things because that's what they have on their blueprint. The next thing is looking for grammatical clues. So remember high school English. So if the question is asking for something plural, the answer is going to be plural. They're going to have to grammatically match. So if there's an answer option that's singular, you can most likely rule that one out. If they're asking about a medication, then the correct answer will be a medicine. So if they're asking about a medicine, they usually give you like 5 medicine choices. But just in case they ask you about a medicine and 3 are medicines and 2 are like a lab or something, pick the medicine choice because they asked you what the medicine is. And then the correct answer and the question must also match in tense. So like the nouns and verbs have to agree, the tense should agree. So use some of those English clues if you get stuck to try to figure out what the right answer might be. Okay, here's a Sesame Street strategy for us. I call it the long correct answer. I don't know if that's actually what you call it, but if one of these things is not like the other, like in Sesame Street, then one of those things doesn't fit in. The longest answer is usually correct. So if there is 3 answers that are relatively short and then 1 answer that's really long, the longest answer is going to be the one that is usually correct. And this ties into the next strategy I have, which is the convergence theory. So convergence strategy, sorry. Look for the option that contains other options. So you're reading it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, admit is one thing. And so if admit to the hospital is one answer, and the next answer is admit to the hospital and start IV antibiotics. So you can tell that there are two options within that second option. So go with the one that converges most of the choices if you can see that, because it's the most comprehensive. There is also sometimes you'll see word repeats. So you'll see that there might be posterior in the question, a posterior nosebleed. From the posterior pharynx, we see blood in the posterior throat. Like if they're saying posterior a lot in the question, and then there is an answer choice that has posterior in it, that most likely is going to be the correct answer. Last couple two strategies. One is paired options. So if there are paired options and none of the other ones are pairs, then one of the paired options is correct. And so what I mean by that is, okay, say there's 5 answer choices. 2 of them are a pair and 3 of them are singular, then these two are one of the 2 paired answers is most likely correct if it's like anterior and posterior. If you have 5 questions and two are paired, now I'm like Mr. Spock. Well, I'll do it this way. I can do Mr. Spock. If 2 are paired, and then one's not, the one that's not paired is most likely the correct answer. So if this is like anterior, posterior, and this is like medial, lateral, and this guy's something else, this could probably be the right answer. So kind of look for the way that the pairing might be. And then the last thing I'll say, this is in honor of my sweet dad, he's not passed away, he's still alive, the good old Joe Cook, who says, never use an absolute term. My dad does not want to use the word always or never, all, none, every, what have you, because he never wants to be wrong. And he always thinks there's some wiggle room, which there is, especially in medicine. So if there is an answer with an absolute term in it, again, never, always, all, none, every, that is most likely incorrect because it needs no room for wiggling. There's always wiggling in medicine. There's always some study that came out of Bangladesh in 1975 that may contradict something else. So there's always a wiggle when it comes to something absolute. I just saw a question come up about the paired options again. I'll use my Spock fingers. If you get 5 answer choices and 2 of them are a pair and 3 of them are single, one of the paired answers is most likely correct. If you get 5 answer choices and 2 of them are 2 pairs, then the single one by itself is the one that's most likely correct. And then remember the absolute thing too. So don't pick the one that's always this, never that, because that is most likely, I'll never say never, but it's most likely not the correct answer. Chelsey, have you ever gotten down to like 2 answers and you're like, okay, these are both the right answers? How do you go about fixing those 2?
Yes, I have many times actually. So I would say, first of all, like I said before, read the question very carefully. This is always true about all the tests that you've ever taken, but it feels even more true with this open book format. When I have missed a question, I go back and I read through it and I realize that I missed a minor but very important point that differentiated the answer options that I had it down to. So if you do have it down to 2 possible answers, both of which you think should be correct, check for things like pregnancy, an abnormal vital sign, a medication allergy, a medication interaction, what treatments they've already tried, see if they give you any of that information. And this might lead you to one option or the other. Most of the time, for me at least, it's been a vital sign abnormality that I've missed that was important. And then again, I kick myself like, got it wrong. There is also a technique called the triangulate strategy, which just means go check multiple resources. So if you go and check a couple things and 2 or 3 other resources all say the same thing, then for the answer, you can probably reliably select that answer and hopefully it will be correct. If there really are 2 correct answers, then most likely the question will get removed or replaced in time anyway, which I have found to be true.
And then here's the one last thing we'll say about test taking strategy. Again, I'm not going to say always, I'm not going to say never, but this is almost always universally true. A lot of times the easiest and most basic answer is correct. For example, If they're asking about carpal tunnel and they haven't tried anything yet, the answer most likely is going to be the lifestyle modification, like the night splint, over like jumping to an injection. Or if it's like someone for like low back pain and they haven't done anything yet, it's most likely going to be like PT over like getting a surgical consult. So obviously, if they've tried some things before, that doesn't pan out. But if you have choices of treatment, usually the easiest and the least invasive is the one that's going to be the correct answer. And again, the two things that are almost always universally correct answers are quitting smoking and securing the airway. And so I will not say they're always correct, but they are almost always correct. Securing the airway is almost always the correct answer, and so is quitting smoking. Now, for example, if the ICU patient with COPD is intubated and they ask you what his best intervention is, he obviously needs to quit smoking, but today's probably not the day for that because he's like tubed in the ICU. So that would be where quit smoking would not be the best intervention, but most likely quitting smoking is going to be the answer, and then securing the airway. And again, we don't write these questions for NCCPA, but we've answered a ton. So send us hate mail if you want, send us love mail, we even like it better, but securing the answer and securing the airway and quitting smoking are generally going to be the right answers if you see them. And so that's another tip that you can look at, especially securing the airway. There's like almost nothing that comes before that if you have a question that you think I would do all 5 of these things at the same time. Okay, so Chelsey's going to share her screen in just a second, and we're going to talk about the PANRE-LA reference guide. Remember, again, at the end, we will have a question and answer session, so keep putting your questions in the chat that you would like us to try to answer at the end, and things that we can try to refresh or those type of things when at the end of this. But we're going to talk about the guide now. So the AAPA PANRE-LA reference guide that we wrote is an online searchable guide that has about 700 pages of content. It has images, tables, EKGs, radiographs, pharmacology information that you can use during your PANRE-LA questions. When NCCP came out with this testing option 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 2021 almost, we tried to figure out like what would be the best way to help, what's the best use of people's time, because you cannot study for this. You can't be on studying for 2 years straight for this exam. So we needed something that we could use in real time to help. So we designed this PANRE-LA reference guide, which we think has been really helpful. I really enjoyed using it. And I think that it helps quickly get you to the right answer during the exam. It's available for 1, 2, and 3 year subscriptions because everyone has different amounts of time left on their exam. And then every year comes with 18.75 hours of category 1 CME. So even if you get the 2-year subscription, you get the category 1 CME twice. So there is a link in the chat about this. And so you can look at the reference guide and the subscription stuff after we're done. But Chelsey, share your screen and show us all about it.
Yeah, I just saw a question pop up about will this be recorded and for access later. Yeah, so we have a YouTube channel, and so later tonight we will put this on the YouTube channel, the Hippo Education YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch certain parts if you want to, or share it with a friend if somebody else is not able to attend the live webinar. But yes, let me share my screen. Okay, Katie, can you see that?
Got it.
Perfect. Okay, so this is, well, once you log into your subscription, after you purchase the subscription, of course, you can see this on a computer, a laptop, or a tablet. We do not have it available on the Hippo app yet. It's just small, and you won't be able to see a lot of the features like tables and EKGs and stuff as well. So right now it's not available on our app. That was another question that I saw pop up. So this is our main screen. On the left-hand side, we have this menu of all the organ systems. But most important, well, not really most important, but every quarter we update our guide. We update the content. So every time we update it, we change the state just so you know it's up to date and accurate to the best that we think. Okay, I'll get into kind of how we can navigate. So on the left-hand side, we have this drop-down menu. You can click on one of these carrots and it opens up all of the topics. So every time you see a carrot, you can click on it and it drops down some more options for you to see. Another way is you can click on this very top link and it will take you just another way to see it. I like to look at it in this main view. But every single one of these, if you highlight it, there's yellow behind it. These are embedded clickable links. And so you can just click on them and it will take you directly to the section within the guide with all of the information, signs and symptoms, diagnosis, treatment, complications, yada, yada. Sometimes we have images, tables, all sorts of stuff. So that's the main two ways of navigating around the reference guide. So this is how I use the guide. I'll open up my reference guide. I'll have my exam on another screen. It will tell me the organ system that the question is asking about. So I'll go to that system. So say it's endocrine. I'll go to the endocrine main table of contents. And what I'll do is I'll just read through all of the topics just to get my brain ready to know what could be the possible options. I look and see what kind of bonus content we have. So for endocrine, we have a pharmacology table, which I will show you more about that later. And then when I've like kind of familiarized myself with what the options might be, I'll hit start question on the exam. My timer will start counting down. I'll read the question, I'll make my best guess, and then I'll go back and start searching in my references and try to confirm my answer. So if I think the question is about Cushing syndrome, perhaps, I'll go to that section. They're asking me about treatment, they're asking me about diagnosis, whatever. You can go and quickly find what section you need. And you can say, oh, this is a good way I can diagnose this, verify, change your answer, hopefully not. But that is how this is laid out. Another way that you can find things in our guide is to use this search function. So in the top, we have this red search bar. You click on it, excuse me. And what the main way that you can use this is if you have a vignette that mentions a certain buzzword or a clue, you can use this. Or if you are given a drug name, use this. They say the patient has aplastic anemia. Type in aplastic anemia and hit enter on your keyboard. And it will look in our guide to see how many times we say aplastic anemia. So we have 5 matches. And you can use these arrows right here to toggle between where we say it. And hopefully one of those will help you find your answer. The biggest trick with the search function is to be as short and as sweet and as simple as possible. It searches within our reference guide for exact text matches. It's not Google, so don't use an entire phrase. It's meant to match exactly how we have it typed. It needs to be how you have it typed, which is kind of impossible. So try to be short and sweet. Because we don't want you to not find what you're looking for simply because we don't have an entire phrase put in there. So another thing, pay attention to spelling. How we have it in our guide is how NCCPA spelled it in their blueprint. Even if they have a typo, we followed suit. So keep that in mind. If you're not sure exactly how to spell something, just truncate it, just make it shorter. So if they have a question about what medication is causing this patient's ototoxicity, and you're like, I don't know how to spell ototoxicity, you can just do short ototox and hit enter. And you can see, hopefully it will help you get there. One of these meds might be causing that. And just toggle through the options in our guide to find it. Another suggestion is, so say you're trying to find Down syndrome. Keep it singular down, and don't do possessive downs because we don't have the possessive in our guide. So it will show up as no matches. So these are just some tips and tricks. Again, if you have this subscription, play around with it before you get to your test, just so you don't find yourself getting frustrated, not being able to find things. But the biggest key, hit enter on your keyboard. It doesn't just automatically search. I've forgotten this before and I'm like, why don't we have anything? You just have to hit enter, is the biggest takeaway from that. So I mentioned this before, but in almost all of the organ systems, we have some kind of bonus content. We have pharmacology tables, we have other tables that you can help, and I'll show you some of the options. But in our pharmacology tables, let me find one. So to find them, they're all the way at the bottom on the table of contents. Pharmacology essentials. So this is our cardiovascular one. These are the types of medications that we include. It's not all encompassing. That would be way too much. to include, but we've kind of went through and picked what are some of the biggest categories. So we go through these types of medicines and then the actual bulk of the tables down here. So we have the drug class, we have some drug names, mechanism of action, indication, side effect, contraindications, cautions, etc. So these are a great reference for if you get a medication specific question. So again, if you get a question about, say you get a question about valsartan, you can put it into our search, hit enter, and toggle through, and it will bring you hopefully to a pharmacology table and answer the question that they're asking. Our pharmacology tables are not comprehensive for all the drug names. Like I said, we just include the most important, most common drug names in our tables. I want to draw specific attention to our infectious disease pharmacology table. Remember, pharmacology for infectious disease can be in any organ system. So, for example, we have our antibiotics here, our antivirals, our antifungals. So remember to look in the infectious disease pharm table if you get a question like that. So our penicillins, yada, yada, all of the different medication antibiotic options we've tried to put in here. Our additional bonus content we have added in several organ systems. We don't feel like this content, or we felt that this content was important and helpful, but it didn't necessarily specifically fit anywhere on the NCCPA blueprint. Some examples in the pulmonary system, our bonus content that we've added is we've added a pulmonary function test section in addition to the pharmacology table. In the renal section, we added an acid-base primer. I do not like acid-base, so this is helpful for me. In the neuro section, we added cranial nerve review, visual field loss, associated lesions, as well as our pharmacology table, if you get a question about that, perhaps. And then in our psych section, we added a mental status exam section, a childhood developmental milestone section, and the pharmacology table. So just some additional stuff that we thought might be helpful to answer a question. A couple more quick things I'll show you. So we have a zoom function. You can zoom in and out if you need to. We have EKGs. So if you get a question about an EKG and you're in this section and you're like, I really wish I could see that better, you can just hit the plus sign to zoom in and see it better. Or you can right click it and do open link in a new tab. It'll open it into a new tab and you can see it much better. So that's our zoom function. And then we have an emergent topic section. On the PANRE-LA, you will get asked maybe one of these a quarter, maybe two, but it's questions about legal, ethical, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. There really is no blueprint for this, so we made our best guess about what might possibly be on this. Katie, is there anything else you think we should show them about the guide? I think you're muted, Katie.
I muted myself. Sorry while you're chatting. I did see a question come through about the pharmacology and bonus sections. Those are also listed on the left-hand side. So they're on the left-hand side as you look through the table of contents on the left side, and they're also in the main guide under the table of contents. The bonus sections I think are really helpful because like they don't have acid base listed, but like I can't believe they would ask us an entire 200 set of questions and not have anything about any kind of acidosis or alkalosis. So I wanted to hedge our information, hedge our bets a little bit and put some of these bonus things in because I think like, they're going to ask that even if it doesn't fall under an organ system or like, I can't remember what cranial nerve 11 does or something. And they might ask that. And so I think that make sure that you're familiar, like just familiarize yourself with the guide so you know what's there. Because again, those aren't the actual like, blueprint topics that NCCPA gave us. But I'm like, we're really going to need to know at some point if like someone strokes out somewhere in the brain, like what their visual fields are going to look like. And I can never remember those things. Can you show us how to give feedback? So if you're in the guide and you have questions about it, if you find a mistake, you find a typo, or you want to ask us a question, can you show us the feedback button, Chelsey?
Yes, definitely. So yeah, first, like Katie said, you can get to it in our pharmacology tables. Again, if you in the main section of that organ system at the bottom, bonus content, whatever's in the bonus content, or on the left-hand side, if you just go to the very bottom before the next organ system, that will be a list of how to get there too. So that's pharmacology tables, super helpful. But on this subscription, on your subscription on the main page, there's this feedback widget that most of the time it stays closed, but if you open it, this is where you can reach out for help or to give us feedback. So you can send us feedback about something being incorrect, perhaps. You can suggest something that we don't have that should be in there. You can report an issue if you have it, like an IT issue. These come directly to Katie and I. So if you need help with something, please put your email address in there. If you don't include it, it shows up anonymous and there's no way for us to get back to you. So that's something to keep in mind. But this is how, if you have any suggestions, you can reach out to us this way. Like Katie said, yeah, try to get in. If you buy this, search around, kind of cover your bases before the timer starts so you don't panic. We have a support team, an awesome support team here at Hippo Education. If you need anything additionally, their email address is support@hippoeducation.com. But we are all here to help you if you need help with a subscription that you have.
Awesome, Chelsey. Thank you for sharing that. The biggest hint of all the things is if you're searching in our guide, hit enter. Again, Chelsey had the same thing. Like, we made this thing and I will still be in it, like trying to find something. And I'm like, I know I have it. I wrote it myself. And then I remembered I haven't hit enter. So make sure you hit enter. Okay, we're going to wrap up here in just a little bit, but let's go through some questions that folks have so we can try to answer all your questions. So if you have more, drop them in the chat. The first question is, do they tell you the topics covered for each quarter? Oh, geez, I wish they did. So this is okay. I'm stepping onto my soapbox, my TED Talk. It'll only take less than a minute. I wish they did, because if they told us like, hey, Katie, your first quarter is going to be endocrine and hematology and renal, that would be awesome, because then I could actually do some studying for it and some preparation, but they don't tell you. So they do not tell you the topics that are being covered in the quarter. They just tell you what organ system the next question is before you hit open the question. That goes into the next question about how much prep you need to take this test, and is as much as the PANRE. So the answer is you cannot prep for this test. If, like they just said, they told us the organ system that we're going to get these 3 this quarter and then these 3 next quarter, then you could prepare for the test. But you could study for like a month before taking the PANRE-LA, study all of December and start taking it in January, and have no endocrine questions in the first quarter, or only have 1 hematology question. And then no matter like how genius level you are, there's no way what you studied in December you're going to remember in March, or maybe March, but not in September, or not the year from December, or not a year from the next May. Because this thing takes 2 years at the minimum, there's no real way to prepare for that. However, there is a way to prepare from quarter to quarter. And so NCCPA will tell us that you get 5 repeat topics every quarter. So if you got 5 questions wrong in quarter 1, you are guaranteed, as much as I can guarantee something, I don't work for them, you will see these questions come back, these topics come back in the next quarter. So they repeat questions for us. These are the repeated questions. Then when so say example, you get a question on bursitis wrong. Awesome. Next quarter, you're going to get a question about bursitis. Then if you get the question in the second quarter about bursitis correct, they negate your incorrect answer from quarter 1. So the questions do repeat. So the only preparation you can do when you finish the first quarter and you get all your score and you see that you got 4 wrong, one's on bursitis, one's on mumps, and one's on back pain, and I don't even know, whatever, something else, STEMI. You can look at those sections, you can do a little reading on them, you can study those sections in our guide, because you will get a bursitis, a STEMI, a mumps, and what did I say? Back pain. Ooh, I passed my own mini mental status exam by giving myself 4 things and having to remember. And that you'll get those again. So the preparation you can do is between quarters, but you cannot prepare at the beginning, because there's just so much, and no one has 2 years of their life to just continuously be studying. So that is what we think about the preparation. It's really in between. It's not in the beginning. Let's
Katie,
see.
there's a question that
Oh,
you can answer. Again, somebody asked, on average, if you were planning to sit and complete all the quarter questions in one sitting, like you did, not me, how much time should be set aside?
um, well, okay, so 5 minutes of question times 25. That math is 75 minutes. Did I do that math right? Oh my gosh, this is now I feel really on edge and in front of people. But it took me about an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours max, because I did take some time, like a break in between them. And sometimes if I got an answer wrong, I went to go look up because I was mad about what it was and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. And so I do. Oh, thank you for doing math for me. I appreciate.
Thank you.
Someone that gave me the math. I can't multiply. I mean, I can multiply, but not in my head and when people are staring at me, even though I just see Chelsey. But it about 2-ish hours, and that there were some questions that I got done in 30 seconds. 45 seconds, a minute, and then some, this ticker is like ticking and it's like getting louder and bigger in my head, and it's like 28, 27. Sometimes I took the whole 5 minutes, sometimes I didn't. So yes, 2 hours ish if you're going to sit down and probably do the whole thing with a bathroom break or two.
Yeah, I
um
agree.
yeah.
I've done it in three sections usually, but it's nice to go. The point is longitudinal assessment. So they give you the answer, the options, and you can read through the whole explanation. Um, you can tag it if you like want to come back and read it again later in study mode, or like when you come back to your questions again, you can tag them. Um, but yeah, what other questions?
Oh, the organ system. Yes, you see the organ system before starting the timer. So you can review cardiovascular before you open the question. The biggest thing I think is not even to reviewing the thing, but opening the guide and seeing the choices. So atrial fibrillation, aortic stenosis, blah, 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 STEMI, but all the things that they have, that NCCPA has said they can ask you in cardiovascular. If you look at that topic list, like on the left-hand side of our guide, then you can say, okay, I'm preparing myself that this question I'm about to get is one of these things. Now, for cardiovascular, that's hard because the topic list is huge. But for renal, there's like not that many things on it. And for hematology, there's probably even less. So looking, be like, okay, I know what it's going to be. It's either got to be leukemia, it's got to be a lymphoma, this guy's got anemia, or that's basically those are my choices. And so, I do think opening up the guide and looking at the available topics they could ask you on is helpful before you start the question.
Yeah, so that introductory page that pops up, it'll say question one, introduction, pulmonary system. And then below it, it will say whether or not it has a table or an image. And what else, Katie? Is that it?
That's it. Just it'll say the system, and then if you have a table or image coming.
And so if it, say you're on your phone or you're commuting home and you're not prepared to do an EKG question or a table of lab values, you can just store it. Just hit store and nope, I'm not ready for that. But that's what the introductory page looks like.
And I know that I said earlier that I have a tab open on my computer of the normal lab values from NCCPA that is also available in when you take it. So familiarize yourself also with NCCPA's layout. They have some videos on their website that show you kind of how they lay it out, so you know where their lab section is. But there is, I mean, I think it's like a little beaker or something. There is an icon on the site that you click on it and it opens a window to the side that gives you all the normal lab values.
Yeah, I just printed them. I'm a hard copy person, so I just went to the NCCPA normal lab values website and I printed it and I just have it next to me. So I'm not messing with a billion windows. That just works for me better.
Yeah. Okay, someone asked, Chelsey, this is for you again because I've never done it. Storing a question. Can you review the store the question option real quick?
Yes, yes, yes. So you get the introductory thing and it says cardiovascular system. No, thank you. So it'll say begin question is an option, store question is an option, or exit exam. So anytime you want to leave and stop for the day, exit exam. But if you hit store, another pop-up's going to come up and it will say like, do you actually want to store this question? Yes or no or something. So if you hit yes or store question, I can't remember the verbiage. When you click yes, it just moves to the next question. And so say you stored question number 2 about cardiology, it now will just move to question number 3. But it moves that one question to the very end. So question 2 now becomes question 25. if that makes sense. So if you stored 3 cardiology questions in the quarter, that becomes question 23, 24, 25. Hope that answers the question.
We have another question here about the content in the guide. Is it the same as what's on the documents in our PANRE video review course? And that the question is yes, kind of, but not all of it. And so this is a separate information. So the information overlaps. But the thing with the PANRE, like the video course we cover topics that are also only going to be on the PANS. And so 8-ish years ago, 8-ish years ago, NCCPA split the blueprints to PANCE and PANRE blueprints. So now we have different blueprints. We used to have the same blueprint. I'm old enough to remember. So there are things that our PANCE friends, new grads, are getting that we don't get on the PANRE. So our video course covers all of what's on the PANCE blueprint, which also encompasses the PANRE blueprint, but this specifically covers just what's going to be on the PANRE, and in more kind of bulleted, quick to find ways than our documents and the video for our PANRE review course, which folks take when they can take their PANS, or if they're taking like the PANRE in the testing center, that covers more and in a little bit of a different format. This is really just for a guide to quickly get you to where you need to go within that 5-minute timer. So someone asked, after the 5 minutes, they give you an explanation, which you can read for 10 minutes before going on. Yes, you can take one question, read the explanation, and then come back in 3 days. You don't have to keep going on, but the minute you hit start the question, the timer goes and you have to answer that question. But you can log out, log on, walk away, all that jazz, as many times as you want on that introductory screen where it says, your question's cardiovascular, you don't have a table. You can leave and you don't have to answer it. And then you can spend as much time as you want in between questions.
Somebody asked, maybe a couple people asked, in addition to the Hippo Education PANRE-LA Reference Guide, what other online resources are people using for their keyword searches during the exam? So we said we both pull up Google, we both pull up UpToDate. I've used Epocrates, I've used Open Evidence. That was another question. Is that a good reference? Yes, it is AI. So again, like the NCCPA website says, do not put chunks of the question into it just to keep their exam content secure. So you can keyword search it to verify your question for sure. Anything else that you used, Katie?
No, that was basically what I use. And then AI, things like ChatGPT and Open Evidence, they're not terrible, but they can hallucinate and give you the wrong answer. So that would be one that I would try to triangulate with another reference to make sure that it's correct. Someone says, are all test questions 5 minutes? Yes. If that person who's asked this took the pilot before, the pilot was testing what the best amount of time is. I know the pilot, they gave you like 2 minutes, 1/4, and then 4 minutes, and then 5 minutes. Everything for the PANRE is 5 minutes. Another great question. If you get a question wrong and there be topics repeated, is it the exact same question, same topic? The answer is it's same topic. It's not the same question, but it's on burst sides, it's on mumps, it's on back pain, whatever. And you're going to get it back because they tell you. Now, here's a question too that I can try to answer. If somebody doesn't get 5 wrong a quarter, if you don't get 5 wrong a quarter, you are still going to get repeat topics. And so they could ask you the same question as something you already got right, and that's just the way the longitudinal learning is going. So if you haven't gotten 5 questions wrong, you're still going to get some repeat topics, but if you get 5 or more wrong, you're going to get those topics repeated. I'm going through these questions so we can try to answer all the ones that you guys have.
Well, somebody said, how long do you have between getting the introductory screen information and having to pick to start? There's no timer. So you could, in essence, leave that up for 5 days. Like, I think it doesn't start counting you down until you hit start exam or start question.
Yeah, NCCPA will log you off of the system before 5 days, obviously, because if like you'll be inactive or whatever, and it'll log you off and you have to log back in. Um, oh, when do you start to worry if you're missing multiple questions? Okay, this is a hard one. It's hard not to get all up in your head if you miss multiple questions in a row, right? So if you're missing a couple in a row wrong, a couple in a row that are wrong, I would take a break. I would take a break. I'd walk away. I'd get something to eat. I'd come back a different day. But you have to remember that the wrong questions are going to come back at you, and you're going to have a chance to redeem yourself and get it right. And then that first one goes away, the score goes away. And there are also questions that are thrown away. So when you end up getting your score report, which I know this is hard to visualize if you're in your first quarter because you haven't seen it. When you get your score report at the end of the quarter, it'll have like all 25 questions and it'll tell you if they're right or wrong. And then as the quarters go, now you're in quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4, it'll start saying replaced, 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 removed, replaced. So I'm not kidding. Of my first quarter of 25 questions, 19 of them ended up being replaced. It wasn't because I got 19 wrong. I'll tell everyone I only got 4 wrong. So those 4 got replaced by getting asked again, but the other topics got asked other times and they kept replacing them. So there were quarters where very few of mine got actually scored, which then goes back to the fact that the scoring is wonky and you can't understand it. And then there's some that completely get removed because they get thrown out because they're a trash question and everyone got them wrong or it was wrong, and then NCCPA decides to remove it. There's also ones that might be beta on there. Like we don't have really any idea about how that works, but when you start looking, you'll see replaced, replaced, removed, replaced, maybe 5 one quarter, 7 one quarter, 9 another quarter. NCCPA does say that they will never take away a correct answer for an incorrect. So if you get all of them right in one quarter, quarter 1, you get 25 out of 25. They repeat topics for you in second quarter because they repeat topics regardless all the time. And you get that one wrong, they're not going to take away your first correct one. So there is lots of explanation on the NCCPA website about removing and replacing questions, which can kind of get confusing. But once you're in it a quarter or two and you see kind of how that works in your own score report, it makes more sense.
What else? What else? Someone said if you pass 8 quarters, do you have to take the other 4? No. So you have to pass 8 of the 12. So if you do 8 in a row and you pass all 8, you will get an email from NCCPA that says, congratulations, you passed the PANRE-LA. But when that happens, you then get like locked out of being able to go back to the quarters, right, Katie, and see anything else. Like you can't see the question details once you pass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to review that quarter, we want to review quarter 5, your last quarter 8, I would do that kind of right away. You get locked out pretty quick and now it just shows a score. Somebody asked, do we think that the topics were evenly distributed amongst organ systems? They were based on the percentage that NCCPA gave us. So NCCPA in the blueprint has cardiovascular, of course, is the biggest. It's like 12%. And then there's like 5% is like renal. So because renal's 5%, I saw less questions. So they follow along their own percentage that they've laid out. It is not even Steven for all of them right in a row. We got a couple more minutes. Let's answer this last one about resetting your timeline for certification. No, this gets everyone confused. So listen up because this happened to me. I'm a year 6 girl. I'm a 2026 girl. So my certification is up this year, 2026. I finished the PANRE-LA in 2024. So I got done in my year 8 because I took it in year 7 and year 8. I took 8 quarters right in a row. I got done. My certification is still in 26, which will then be 36. So my 10 years did not start in 24 when I got done with the PANRE-LA. My 10 years is set at my 10-year cycle. So even if you pass early because you've taken 8 quarters in a row, it does not restart your section.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up.
Yes.
Katie, any last piece of advice to share?
So my last piece of advice would just be to not stress. If you have a bad quarter, don't stress. If you get a couple wrong in a row, don't stress, take a break. This is a long exam. It does take 2 years, and there is plenty of time to make up for having one bad quarter. And also try not to get righteously angry when questions you think are incorrect because you know better and it's written poorly, and or you don't do that in clinical practice. Most likely, a lot of times that question is going to get thrown out, and so just remember that that question might get thrown out. If you have a question about an item being incorrect, write NCCPA about it because they do listen and they do throw questions out. So just try your best not to panic. Make sure you're in a nice, quiet location when you take it, and just take it at the speed you need to, and realize you have plenty of time because this is a long exam. And you can always,
Yeah, you can always.
oh, sorry, Chelsey, you finish it up. Tell
Oh,
tell
sure.
me your email, yeah.
You can reach out to us at pa@hippoeducation.com, or if you have a subscription to the PANRE-LA, our little widget thing, feedback. But you can reach out. We can try to help answer any specific exam specific questions or about our reference guide. And thank you all for being with us today, spending your time with us. All the PAs at Hippo Education are cheering you on. We're not only cheering you on, but we are right alongside, taking it with you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.